two minutes to be approved. What was the dates on it? The first one, we'll approve the minutes for the short meeting we had. I forgot the date on it.
March the
And that
7th.
was
The 7th and the 14th.
7th. Need a motion to approve the minutes that were on the 7th.
So moved.
Mr. Hughes, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And then the 14th, need a motion to.
Motion for approval.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. You have a copy of the transfers, if there's any questions on any of those.
Motion to approve transfers.
Second. Mr. Bland, any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. You have a copy of the bills and hand checks. Any questions on those? If not, entertain a motion to approve those. Mr. Hughes, Mr. Tackett, all in favor?
Judge, I'm going to recuse from any Parks and Rec that may be in their place.
It's unanimous, except for that one. The county clerk turned in fees in the total of $17,706. The next item on the agenda, I'm required to present a budget to the court by May 1st. So that's, today is prior to May 1st, so I have a budget that I'm going to present, and then we will have as many workshops as we need to change or alter or do whatever needs to be done when you have a chance to look at it. I will say, for those that are interested, I've got copies of budget requests in my office, and they're there to look at. And some of the bigger budgets that have been turned in have their audits and so forth, and they're there to look at. And if you'll turn with me, just a few items I want to point out.
Do you have any more of those? I printed mine off, but the number looks to be different on this one than the one I printed.
And if you'll turn to page 3, just want to point out a few highlights that you need to see. Under 5015723 that's under the sheriff's budget.
Here it is, I got it.
He requested 6 vehicles, and we talked about it, and that is to pay for 5 vehicles. Under the coroner, he needs a new vehicle. We're going to take the one he's driving and use it in a different department, and he wants a larger vehicle, and that vehicle's in the budget. Under planning and zoning, this is what they requested. Now, the city has got to approve this, and so that is the only number I've got at this time. But that's exactly what he, under economic development, special projects, I plugged in $100,000 for things that may or may not come up. And that gives you some flexibility on if there's things in economic development that we feel that would help in our economic development program. We have that there. Under building and construction, some of these are new codes. This is the money for the airport, $88,500. That's what we put last year.
Which page are you on, Judge?
I'm on page 4. That would be 5075, 548, and I'm sorry, I thought I'm getting ahead of myself. But are you up with me now?
Yes, sir.
I'm just pointing out the thing. Most of these are routine, like custodial personnel and these things. But these are things, when you look at the budget, and if we're going to, as we go over it in workshops, you can certainly question any of them. Turning the page, on page 5, under 5115, building code enforcement, I met with the mayor and Stacy Clark, the finance director. This is the amount that they requested, and so I put that in the budget. Under electrical inspection, the last figure down, 5116902, payment to government agencies, that Don turns in the money to us, and hopefully he turns in $120,000 and $60,000 of it goes to the city because they get half of the revenue. Under the fire department, just one big item. It's not real big, it's just one that wasn't in there last year. 5120723 is a vehicle, $35,000, and Mike, that's for a Suburban, I believe, isn't it? What? It's a pickup truck. Okay, pickup truck. Turning the page to under DES, EMA as it is now, 5135902, payment to government agents. We get some grants through the year, and if we get $20,000 in grant, it would go to, half of it would go to the city, so that'd be what that is. If we get $5,000, they'd get $2,500, whatever that is. Under the ambulance service, and this is a big, big one, and Brandon's here, so under 5140550, $500,000. And all of the heart, what do you call them?
It's our cardiac monitors.
Cardiac monitors are outdated, and equipment, our parts cannot be had, and the warranty's out on them. And how many was it that?
I think it's 11 that is in the budget, I believe.
Yeah, and they last, what, 10 years, Brandon?
The current ones that we had now, we had some that are 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, so we,
Yeah, so this is a one-time cost, but that's why that big number is there.
Can I stop and ask, have y'all looked for in your budget here, this year for the lift gurneys?
that is something that we have been looking at, but it was not included in this year's budget because of the price on the cardiac monitors is really what we're looking at. But yes, that is something that we would.
But again, when they cut the risk or the chance of back injuries and.
Yes, you are correct on that. The power cots or the lift systems that can be placed in the ambulances have shown that they can dramatically reduce work-related injuries, which, you know, in a sense could definitely, you know, help reduce the number of individuals that we have out on workers' comp, and once again, hopefully lower the cost what the county has to pay towards workers' compensation.
Before we approve this, I'd like to see more information on that, because I do know that that's one of the big things about workers' comp and a lot of the ones that is taken out in disability.
Right.
So if you could get us some information on that to look at, appreciate it.
Sure, yeah, we can definitely do that.
Bill?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a comment on the monitors. Hopefully that will be all of them. I mean, you know, if you replace one, you need to replace them all, I think. I don't think you need different monitors.
That
and
is
people,
correct.
you know, training on one, or if they're in one truck, they've got this monitor, and another truck, they've got another monitor. And especially if they're all about the same age, if I understand.
That is correct.
Correctly.
And one of the reasons why we're looking at to move forward with this project this year is, once again, like the judge mentioned, at the end of the year, the serviceability on the cardiac monitors will be running out. And also, if we go ahead and currently move forward with it, the cardiac monitors we have now, we can get a little bit of a trade-in value. It's not much, but it is something that we can put towards possibly, you know, overall expense.
Would it make sense maybe to just get a couple of those power gurneys and try them? To do that?
Yeah, and actually we
I
do
think
have one right now that we were able to purchase last year on a grant that, you know, our crews absolutely love. It has dramatically helped as far as moving patients. And yes, we would definitely love to have additional ones and to put in all the frontline trucks. But once again, they are fairly expensive, so
But you make a lot of runs.
we do. We definitely do, so.
What
yeah,
we'll
we'd be
do,
more than happy to move
Brandon,
forward
get
with
us
it.
a cost on it and
Definitely.
we'll
We'll
go from there.
definitely do that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And then also, they've got in the last code on there, 723, is a new ambulance, which estimated 120,000. Then under dispatch, this is from the meeting we had, the amount of money that they are requesting for dispatch. Those are just the highlights on that page. On the next page, under animal control, these are new payment to government agencies. We take in some money in the animal control where they adopt animals. We plugged in $6,000. That would be half of the revenue that we take in. I will point out that they don't pay half of the costs of the animal shelter either. So that, but anyway, that's there. Under solid waste, 5215342, that matching share, that's what they're requesting for recycling. And that, I've got 2,500 highlighted too. That was just, my pen slipped on that one. That's really to pay for BRRC recycling. But then under the cemetery, the last thing on that column, again, is our interlocal agreement with the cemetery, and that's half of their net cost. And then under the social services,
Can I ask a real quick question?
yeah,
Back to Checkpoint. It's my understanding that Parks and Rec has told them they're not going to be allowed to be out at the building at the county park. So
oh, I see that, yeah.
is that program?
If they don't have it, then of course we won't pay it.
Well, I mean, if they have it, but I mean, does the county?
I don't
does
know.
Parks and Rec
Jerry,
control
do you
that?
know what their intent is? I don't think their intent is to stay, but I.
Well, is their intent to stay, or has Parks and Rec sent them a letter that says that
Oh,
they
I don't
can't be
know.
out there anymore?
Jerry, that,
Well, originally, when all of this happened, that you and I had talked about it being a short-term situation with them, and as rentals have increased, utilizing that facility, and their numbers have decreased, the board did make the decision to go ahead and not renew a contract with them at the end of this school year. So once school is out this summer, then,
So that
because
might-
the contract was originally with the center of town, so it wasn't even with the county park building, it was with the city at the center of town. But we did continue to allow that over at the park building,
yeah.
thinking that we would be back in that center sooner than 2 years, almost 3, so.
But do rentals of the park building actually affect, or vice versa? Because usually the rentals are at nights and weekends.
Not always.
Usually, though.
David,
Anyway,
one of the
on
things.
the $10,000 is, so that may not even get paid out.
May
That
not,
may just
but-
go away, okay?
Yeah, if they don't have it, but
Now, let me ask you this, in the Parks and Rec budget, is there money that is paid to Checkpoint?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
it's my understanding, and I had a conversation with the lady that runs it, it's been several months ago, and I don't want to misquote my memory, but I think she said whenever they had a rental during the week, that they vacated the place.
They would have to, yeah.
And then the second thing, and I'm trying to remember, and I don't want to say for sure, that she was just wanting to get through to the end of this
She
year.
was. She
and I
approached
think
us
she
about that as
understands.
well.
But since I had no information, I plugged it in, and of course, if they don't have it, they won't get the money.
So then do we understand that that particular program simply will not have a home?
That's correct. Which is not, that has never been a Parks and Recreation program.
I understand, but.
But it is
the
count we give to it.
Yes,
But the
yes.
result of all this is that program will no longer.
My
have
understanding
a
is that
home.
they were looking for some places other than that, because when we sent them out to the county barn to try to compensate for what they had lost at the center, the numbers started to dwindle within the program. And she had approached me at the beginning of the school year, basically wondering if she was even going to have enough children to have the program this year. And so, you know, in communication with that, and then with the reservations for that county barn, they have been looking for other places well beyond, ever since the center of town, basically. But have not been able to afford financially the rent that other places are asking them to pay.
So we've got a placeholder in there if it happens.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jerry?
Not now.
Not now.
Thank you,
Judge,
not for now.
If we could back up, one thing you mentioned under solid waste management on page 7 was the payment to Bluegrass Regional Recycling Corporation.
Yeah.
There's been so much publicity about Bluegrass Regional Recycling Corporation and the lack of contracts, and is that going to be a viable alternative for us going forward?
I don't know one at this point in time. The city, you know, they run a recycling center, and we're a member of it. And the answer is, I don't know. And yes, there's been a lot of controversy about it.
Yes, sir.
But it's in the budget, and if they don't get the contracts. And David Duttlinger, I think, is straightening out a whole lot of those things that were not really contracted and so forth. So just have to see how it plays out.
Okay.
On page 8, the social service programs, every one that I listed there is what they were last year. And so didn't increase any, didn't decrease any. Some people asked for a lot more money, some asked for the same. So that's what they are. Under Parks and Rec, Jerry, you don't have to do anything, just be ready. And help me too. Program support is more, but it's combined several things, correct?
That's correct.
So I don't know, it's a little bit more than you've asked in the past, but it's because we had it in a couple of different line items. And then under the utilities, that's not a problem. And then the 739 is for half of equipment that they need. And Jerry gave me a list of what they needed, which is, anybody wants to see it, it's downstairs. But Jerry, you want to speak to that, what all the equipment that we haven't bought for several years?
Left it sitting on my desk at the office. But basically, there's some snow removal equipment. Are you talking about the capital items?
Yeah, the capital equipment, yeah.
There was some snow equipment that we needed to purchase. The dump truck is, and JR can attest to this because we've had him look at all of our equipment typically twice a year before we operate it, and then once the season's over. And our dump truck is in really horrible shape with the salt and different things that have been utilized for that. So, you know, we've asked for some snow removal equipment, just some. There's the software equipment that I had mentioned to bring our software up to date, since we do not have tech support for that. I'm trying to think of everything that was on there.
One thing that is, I didn't bring it up here because we're going to have a workshop,
Right.
but she's got a whole list. It's downstairs. I got to stack this thing. I didn't make copies, but it's there for magistrates to look at. Of all of these
Basically,
things.
right,
But
and
these-
it's just things, honestly, that we have not had the opportunity to replace in capital for quite a few years. And if we don't start replacing it, we're gonna start losing vehicles, and that's going to impact how we're able to take care of the parks, because a lot of this equipment is for the outdoor maintenance, indoor maintenance. So it's gonna start affecting how the facilities look and, you know, how the parks are looking.
So that's why that's in there. Now, the city's got to approve all these things too.
And we do have a meeting Monday night
Yeah.
with that, so.
Given our current discussions about IT and IT support and how many users and the need for some new equipment. Are those costs reflected in this budget?
It is. There is a $35,000 charge on the IT, and it's a line item within the operations budget.
Okay.
And that breaks down to basically support for, and that number will change more than likely, because originally when this budget was developed for me to turn it in, we had been talking about 20 users. And then with the contract, we did get it down to 16 users. So that number will be a little different, and I can get that to you. The counties, we're going to talk with them on Monday about it. So that gets us down to 16 users, and then it's replacing completely 9 computers within the system. So it is the difference between that 35,000 and 27 and change for the users is going to be the difference in that one-time purchase of hardware.
All of this is, when we have the workshop, this will be available, so.
Correct.
This is the kind of a.
Yeah, and I will bring all of that
Yeah.
information with me as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next item, capital outlay, is for money that the county would use in capital outlay. One thing that we wanted to do this year, it'll be next year, the barn there on the Medford property, by the pond, is to cover that with a metal siding like the other barns are, and any other work that needs to be done. And that is why that item is in there. Under the county museum, I've got 300,000 in there, David, and that's to cover the HVAC and the electrical work. I think it's high, hope it's high, but there may be other things, and part of that may come in this year, but that's a number that, and we need, I don't know what we can do it this coming year or how bad we'll need it, is the roof. And if that comes up, then we'll deal with that. It might be able to be repaired and bump along for another year. Bill, do you have?
Yeah, if it is a roof, I mean, it probably needs to be taken care of, but I'm thinking some of it, based on my observation down there, is some of it, I think it's the caulking joints on the stone itself. You can see where the caulking's coming apart. So I think some of the moisture issue or the leak issues may not be necessarily roof.
Well, when we get ready to do that, we need to make sure of that. But there's not enough money in there to do the HVAC, the electrical, and the roof. But there's certainly enough to do what we hope can get started right away. And turning the page, payments to the government agencies, we give Sadyville and Stamping Ground 1% of the occupational tax. So that's going to be a total of about $350,000. Each one would get half of that. Then under reserve for transfer, that's $1.5 million. That's for such things that if an emergency comes up, if it is the roof, we've got money to do that, or other things. And then the other item that I've got highlighted, under health insurance, 9,400, 205, $2.5 million. But that's a wild guess. If everybody gets into the wellness program, maybe it'll come down. And the good news is that the departments that have turned their sheets in, we've got 72%. JR, stand up and take a bow. They were 100%. And we appreciate that. And Jack, I think y'all were 100%, both of you. But we haven't got all the departments in, but Monday, or today was the last day, wasn't it? Or tomorrow? Tomorrow's the last day, but it should help our rating. But that's.
So just one thing that's kind of interesting, I'm glad that we're in a position to continue to give those payments to Sadyville and Stamping Ground. But even though we make that allocation to Stamping Ground, we have a separate allocation to the Stamping Ground Fire Department. And even though we have a separate allocation to Parks and Rec, we have yet another separate line item for the Ed Davis Community Center,
The what?
the Ed Davis Community Center.
Yeah. But it's not half of the cost by any stretch.
Right.
Yeah. That, yeah.
Those just seem to be very linked together.
Stamping ground. Now, the reason we give to the stamping ground fire department, that allows, if you've got a volunteer station, you've got a 5-mile radius that you can get a class, 9 or 8. Yeah, and by us supporting that, that gives them an insurance break. But,
Oh,
yeah,
I
wouldn't-
don't disagree with
yeah.
doing it at all. It just, it seems interesting that we fund the city and then separately we fund the fire department.
That's for the reason to just distinguish between it, yeah.
Just clarification, Ed Davis should not be a line item in the budget.
It's
Ed
a line
Davis.
item that we give to them.
Oh, for you all independently, not through my budget.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's not
Make
in
sure I
your
didn't
budget.
turn that into you. I was like,
Yeah,
oh.
that's why it's not in there,
Okay,
in your budget,
okay.
yeah. Any other questions on that?
Yes, sir.
Then, on the road department, if you'll turn down to 6105-447, we've got $1 million in there for road resurfacing. When we cut back 3 or 4 years ago, when the budget was down, we did quite a bit less roads, and we're getting back up to what we need to do each year, and that's in there. Then also, we have in there on 723, 61057, a new tandem truck plow, snow plow, and that's replacing the vehicles, what, about 20 years old, JR?
It's 22 years old.
22 years old, so it's an expensive vehicle, but they do last a long time. And then under capital projects, capital outlay, $4 million. $2 million